All right. Hi, Caroline.
Hi, Sarah.
Oh, I'm so glad to be able to talk to you. I know that, you and I have connected a lot over holistic health coaching, and just nutrition and wellness in general. But, I don't think I've ever really been able to like take a deep dive into your story and, your philosophy and your work. So I'm excited to be able to talk to you about that.
Well, thanks for having me on board. I'm excited too.
Yeah. So just for everyone out there listening or watching, I would love to kind of start with just that, your story and kind of how you got to where you are in terms of, your involvement in the wellness world.
Yeah, awesome. So I wasn't always a health and wellness advocate, as most of us at least start in a certain place, aka college or high school.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
if I knew then what I know now, but honestly, I have always struggled with or had and continue to I'm trying to, continue my journey with it, but digestive issues in
Mm.
particular. And that's
Mhm.
something that reared its head primarily, I want to say like 10 years ago. In a big way for me, I had ongoing digestive distress and I'm a performer. So one of my biggest joys and passions is music and playing music. And my husband and I are in a duo called Colin and Caroline.
Love
And
it.
that's something that's fueled me from day one. But what was causing me quite a bit of anxiety was that I wasn't sure, like before shows and stuff, if I had eaten something or if
Hmm.
I felt like I had to plan out my day and to a T. And it was kind of that added stress of not knowing what was going to disrupt my digestive system
Hmm.
essentially. And I had all
Hmm.
these, it's the built-in anxiety of like, okay, well, if I go on stage and then I'm having stomach pains or something, I want to know
Yeah.
how to control that. So I saw a gastroenterologist, um, specialist and all of that. I had numerous procedures and stuff, and I couldn't really nail it down. And this was before I knew about what I came to know as leaky gut.
Yeah.
And so I found out later from a functional doctor that I actually had leaky gut, which was causing a lot of these digestive issues, but also a lot of other stress I was feeling that I really didn't acknowledge because my baseline had become just that. I wasn't an overly stressed person. I've never really been. I've always been a pretty even keel person, but my baseline for feeling good wasn't anywhere close to where it is now after healing my gut.
Hmm.
And so essentially, I found out through a test they do. There's a lot of the unfortunate part is that a lot of ways about when you come to leaky gut, it's not in conventional medicine yet. It's not really in the forefront of Western medicine. People know gut health is really important, but
Right.
leaky gut in particular was something that a lot of doctors I had been seeing didn't really want to hear about. So
Hmm.
this functional doctor put me on a really natural protocol, mostly incorporating um, healthy foods and supplements and just a really natural, nice way of doing things. Now, again, it took longer, but it was that long haul paid off for the long haul, essentially. So
Hmm.
I was able to heal my gut and all those issues cleared up. My digestive issues cleared up, and I decided that I decided then that food was more important and way more than just weight loss and the other ways that I had been envisioning it before. Um,
Yes.
that it fuels your body, it's medicine, and so I learned and I dove deep into that. I've always been a researcher, so I really did a deep dive on my own. Since a lot of doctors weren't there yet, I had to kind of um, go in and do the work myself, which was great. It's empowering to advocate
Yeah.
for yourself. But um, also, I think that work has to be done on our own in order to figure out what works for ourselves. So,
Yeah.
yeah, in that whole journey of healing my gut, I discovered a whole number of things that food can do specifically. And the right types of food that work for me don't necessarily work for everybody, but um, that's what got me really into the health and wellness component of led me to want to help other people kind of figure out what works for them as well. Long-winded backstory on digestive issues and all of that, but really,
yeah, no, but it's what set your
somewhere.
foundation. Yeah,
for sure.
So for those people who don't know what leaky gut is, can you explain that?
Yeah. So it sounds pretty unappealing, but it's actually way more common than we think. It's essentially when the barrier of our gut lining, they call our gut microbiome the second brain, and for good reason. It's actually, I believe it's 70 to 90% of our entire immune system, which during these times right now is incredibly important. But when that's compromised, it causes chaos throughout our entire body. It can, it rear its head in digestive issues, or it can be brain fog, or chronic fatigue, or even arthritis. It just, when our gut isn't balanced, we're not balanced. And so what happens with leaky gut is that our immune system ends up like attacking itself. It reads foods that might be healthy or thought of as healthy as invaders if we have a compromised gut biome. And so if you were to picture that, I wish we had a diagram there, but essentially the wall of your gut lining is allowing these foods, which we know are good, to be read as bad by our immune system. Right. And
which is like a healthy gut is supposed to be like really tight.
Really intact. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Brick and mortar,
Right.
So there are lots of ways to heal that process, but it's, again, it takes some time. It usually takes like 3 to 6 months, and then even longer depending, which is really essentially done with an elimination diet of food sensitivities and a lot of gut healthy foods, which I can go into as well. But really that whole protocol is a very natural way of doing what our body's meant to do so that we can thrive. So
what were your specific symptoms, and what was that moment where you were like, okay, I need to get a handle on this. I need to go see somebody?
Yeah. So I was dealing with strong stomach cramping and digestive distress. I was having anxiety, and I was having brain fog occasionally after sleeping well. So it was a lot of different things were making me question what was going on. My doctor immediately, all it took was like a stool sample to really tell. That's essentially how the gut is. I mean, that's how a lot of the tests, at least that I know of, are, experimented with and understood. So I did a stool sample and all of that, but I was really dealing with mostly digestive distress. And that can manifest in a lot of different ways for different people, whether that's constipation or diarrhea. Mine was just stomach cramping, intense. And so again, when I had something to do that day, I was like, I don't want to deal with this.
Right.
But yeah.
And I can imagine as a performer, I mean, I know that like whenever I had to perform or like play sports growing up as a kid, like you would get that like game time, like it just shows up in your stomach. So I think what's really interesting is that, you would feel the effects of that, especially on days where you had to perform, but then the anxiety that you had on like, oh, is my stomach going to cooperate this day, was probably not doing you any favors.
Right, exactly. So the big question mark, the anticipatory anxiety wasn't fun either. So there are a lot of things that can, that can happen with it. There are a lot of ways that it can manifest. So getting your gut under control is very, very key for a lot of different reasons. But again, situationally, it's different for everybody.
Yeah. And so when your doctor put you on kind of like a gut healing protocol, is that more general for like anyone who's struggling with leaky gut can kind of follow this protocol? Or I would imagine that it would be somewhat specifically tailored to you, depending on what foods agree with you and which ones don't, because, you have your like more categorically allergies that like people can't handle, but then you have those like what I call like micro sensitivities of like, some people can't tolerate like, I don't know, something as healthy as like cauliflower or Brussels sprouts. So what did that protocol kind of look like for you?
Yeah, and to piggyback on that, it's really confusing when you hear a bunch of different diet
Yeah.
protocols for different things, and then you're eating the right things, but it might not be tailored to your specific system.
Yeah.
I think we all, if we're in the health and wellness world at all, we deal with that, that
Yeah.
confusion day in and day out. But there is kind of an umbrella protocol that they have, and it's you want to get rid of, essentially, it's an elimination diet. So usually it's you find out what you're sensitive to, but if you don't want to do a specific food sensitivity test, they can often be expensive. So the other way of doing it is essentially a Whole30 type protocol if you're going to relate it to a diet. They eliminate soy, gluten, common allergens, eggs, unfortunately.
Yeah. It's a common
But
allergen.
it is, yeah, you're right.
Yeah.
So, and they put you on a lot of, they being the protocol, is a lot of gut healthy foods such as kefir, fermented foods like sauerkraut. And those are important because they have those live probiotics in them already. So,
Mm-hmm.
taking a supplement form of a probiotic is really helpful. And a lot of times doctors will recommend that. But building in these foods, padding your system with these helpful probiotic rich foods, prebiotic rich foods, which help absorb the probiotic, is really important too. So a lot of times, at least the protocol I was on was incorporating these foods, but also bone broth, which is rich in collagen, and that helps soothe your gut lining. It's all the foods that you wouldn't naturally gravitate towards unless you know about gut health. It's
right.
does the job. It really does. And so, and I, to this day, though I don't have leaky gut anymore, I have all of those foods in my refrigerator, but I kind of
That's awesome.
But yeah, it starts with an elimination diet and then reintroducing those foods after your gut lining has healed. And you'll do an initial test, typically, to test where your leaky gut has come into play, elimination diet, and then you introduce certain supplements like L-glutamine, which is really soothing for the gut lining as well, sometimes aloe, collagen, and there's countless more I could think of. I could get my list, but yeah. So then you
post about it.
For sure. And then you slowly introduce those gut healthy foods and see how your system's reacting to them. So,
so how long did it take you to kind of feel the effects of that protocol?
Yeah, so it took me 3 months, which was on the shorter end, actually. He had anticipated, the doctor I saw anticipated like 6 months in. And so one thing I will say about myself is if I'm going to do something, I do it like all in. And so,
good for you. Yeah. I mean, I guess by that point you're like, I got to try this.
You got to, yeah. I mean, if you've been through years of any sort of either digestive distress or something that you can't put your finger on and you're given kind of a cure or an answer, I would want to go all in. So I did. I tried my best to keep to the diet and the supplementation and stuff, and it's hard. But fortunately, I had already started incorporating a lot of healthier foods at that point in my life anyway. So eating healthy wasn't the issue. It was more just staying on track with like the time of day and making sure if I went out to parties, it was during the holidays, I remember. So that was kind of the hard part. But
yeah, I'm sure.
Yeah. And reducing stress is really important. That's another whole thing that was recommended. It isn't, food is important, but stress reduction is really important too.
For
so that
sure.
the food can do its job. And I think that goes without saying for a lot of things, not just gut health. But I found it very helpful for me.
Yeah. What type of stress management techniques did you incorporate alongside?
So I started meditating actually about 3-4 years ago. Roughly around the time when I found out I had leaky gut. I don't want to say it was because I had leaky gut that I started meditating. I think a lot of things came to a head that year. In a good way. I feel like certain things are connected, and for whatever reason, I started that routine during the time of healing my gut and figuring out a lot of other things regarding health and wellness that were fueling me to pursue it. And so since then, I've tried to do it as much as I can. You know, I'm a human, so we don't always have 20 minutes every single morning at the same time to dedicate to it. But
Right.
I think that has been life changing for me, and managing stress and maintaining just a good balance throughout the day to carry with me. You meditate too occasionally, I'm sure. I know
Oh
we talked
yeah.
about that,
Yeah.
but
Yeah,
yeah,
it's
even
been
yoga.
very, yoga and meditation have been two things for me personally that have been
Yeah.
life changing in terms of stress management. And it's not to say that we don't have days where we're not completely stressed out. I mean, being business owners, like you're just going to have days where you're
Yeah.
riddled with anxiety. But I think
To
what
acknowledge
it's,
the stress, right? You
yes,
and you let yourself
yeah,
be stressed.
yeah, exactly. And I
Yeah.
think, what has taught me to do is just understand like when I am feeling that way to kind of like take a step back and be an observer, being like, where is this coming from? And most of the time it's coming from a thought that is like not even true. Like it's just something I'm telling myself, which is creating the anxiety, which you can just be like, okay, that's not even true. Just let that go. Like even today, I like had this a little bit of anxiety, and I was like driving my car and I was like, okay, just be in this experience. Like that's what
Yeah.
meditation, it's like helping you to
Feel the
be
steering
directly in
wheel.
your experience. Yes.
You're not in here.
um
It's so
yes,
true.
I know I could go on about that every for hours, so that might have to be a separate conversation,
Yeah, well,
but I'm
it's all connected. I'm serious. That
yeah,
whole thing is one thing, and then it's all the rest is, up here. One brain, two brains.
exactly. Yeah. And how like 90 to 95% of your serotonin, which is your, happy chemical in your brain, is found in your gut. So that's what people need to realize, that gut health is so important for so much more than just, food and how you feel physically.
Right.
Do you feel as if gut health is kind of a cornerstone to your health coaching and your philosophy of how you work with clients?
I think it's what got me started. And
Mm-hmm.
I think it's a common theme I find within all of my clients.
Mm-hmm.
Typically, what I find is that everybody's trying to work towards the same end goal, which is feeling better in
Yeah,
some way.
exactly.
And
Yeah.
so if that's the end goal, then whatever way you're getting there is the way that we want to explore and really capitalize on. And so what I've found is that gut health is a primary issue with a lot of people dealing, at least I can find some of those synchronicities between what I've experienced. I think having gone through certain things like gut health being one, hormone imbalance, which I'm actually still trying to find balance with myself.
It's a delicate dance.
It is, it sure is. I mean, there's a lot of things. You can be the healthiest person in the world and still have a lot of things that we're trying to, figure out about our health and wellness, which is an ongoing journey. But again, I find that with my clients, they just want to feel better. And that
Mhm.
essentially starts with whether it's the gut. I find a lot of my advice and help and my coaching is about what works for them specifically. It's very
Mhm.
individualized because what's going to work for me isn't going to necessarily work for the person that I'm coaching. And so I can offer my empathy there, but then finding what works for them and what they're willing to do and meeting them halfway, that is what it's all about. And that individualized attention and accountability is really what fuels people, I think, to move forward. And once people find for themselves what works for them, it's the most
Yeah.
empowering thing in the world. And so they want more of it. It's like, unfortunately, I'm not going to relate it to sugar, but it's like,
Yeah. Yeah.
you find what feels good, as our
Right.
girl Adrienne would say,
Yeah.
yoga with
Yeah.
Adrienne. You want more of it. And so I think it encourages people to keep up the healthy habits that they've established along the way and to build upon those and continue diving deeper. Or at least just maintain what they've gotten. So gut health is a huge theme, and also relationships with food in general. If we're going to talk about food as medicine, food can heal the gut, it can heal hormones, but it can also be, as you said earlier, a delicate dance, right? Because we don't want to overthink it. And so
Right.
that is where that mindfulness component comes in. And so all of these different things that we want to be focusing on are all connected. And
Yes.
so at the end of the day, we want them incorporated into our routine so that we don't have to overfocus and overstress.
Right. Right.
Um,
And I think you brought up a good point in terms of what you said about meeting them halfway and kind of where they are and just helping them to, because this is where like you said, food relationships and mindset is just plays such a role in someone's health journey, so to speak, or achieving a certain goal that they want to achieve. And if they come from a place of feeling defeated or frustrated, or they've tried all the things and nothing's working, then, just that being able to kind of see, just taking the baby steps and seeing a positive change in just, that small step can sort of help propel you forward.
right.
And I don't think people really understand the role that food relationships really play. And so if there's like a block there, especially just on the nutrition side of things, like that's not anyone's fault. It's just, we as human beings, we have a very emotional attachment to food. And for a lot of people who, especially if they've had years of dieting or restricting or things like that, then it can be negative. So to be able to like turn that around to a more positive relationship, I mean, that's key right there.
Yeah, 100%. Because then they can take that positive relationship with them into,
Mm-hmm.
Any circumstance they meet down the road.
Right. So in kind of health coaching these days, what is kind of a common block or blocks that you find with your clients that's holding them back from achieving their vision of what it means to feel good?
Well, I think attaching an action to a feeling is really important. And I find that, and it makes sense because we're always our own worst critics. But a lot of times what I find is that clients are quick to acknowledge what they're not doing enough of
Mm-hmm.
versus what they have already started to progress in. It's kind of a narrow lens. And so when people are able to step outside and acknowledge the progress and really sit with how they feel after doing a certain healthy thing or eating a certain healthy food or exercising, after they can acknowledge the good,
Yes.
I think that's where that needle starts to move a little bit. And I think attaching that feeling, that positive feeling with that action that they've incorporated on their own. I'm here to like guide them, but I'm not doing it for them. And so that's
right.
them. And so a blockage I find is the narrow lens on what I'm not doing enough of as a client.
Mm-hmm.
What am I slipped off. I had a Chick-fil-A sandwich. My whole week's to crap now. But really, you also had a salad last night for dinner and it made you feel great, but we're not focusing on that because we're so focused on the negative part.
Yes.
So getting out of that mindset and being able to bounce back and have that control. I'm talking with my hands.
Yeah. Oh, I do too. I'm like,
but it's Zoom. But yeah, I think that's a huge power. And when people acknowledge that power that, okay, I had a Chick-fil-A sandwich or I had the fries and I feel guilty about it, acknowledging that feeling and then focusing attention on what they're doing well and attaching it to a feeling after they do it well.
Yeah.
Or in their mind,
I love that.
Do it well, being however they perceive doing well for them,
Yeah. And I think what human beings need to understand is that like that's a brain thing. Like we are hardwired to perceive the negative. I mean, it's a survival instinct. And so it's not like there's anything wrong with them that they kind of right off the bat kind of go to the negative, but it's also like that's what retraining your brain really helps you do. And meditation can help you practice that. And it all comes full circle.
Yeah. And to tag on that same note, if for instance somebody, a client, or even you or I are to fall off the wagon in our own mind, meaning we perhaps like eat something we wish we didn't, it upset our stomachs. Mm-hmm. Acknowledging that made us feel bad and why, and then attaching not necessarily a negative thing, but an acknowledgement and a discovery to it, rather than treating it as a guilty feeling, attaching like, okay, what did this teach me? Like this teaches me that perhaps bread and cheese don't agree with me at 12 o'clock
Right.
at night, you know?
Period. End of sentence. And to be
Right.
able to like say that objectively.
Yeah. And so, okay, learned a lesson, move on, but at least I know that now. So maybe perhaps I won't make the same decision next time. So yeah, I think learning from those experiences when we fall off and whatever way we feel we're falling off.
Yeah. And I think that brings us to like a big theme of a shift that I know I was coaching clients on, and I'm sure you see it too, is just that shift from judgment to like curiosity. Like if you can,
Yes.
because I mean, when people feel guilt and shame in the response to food and eating, something that we need to do multiple times a day in order to survive, like that's not doing you any favors, right? And you know, and those are really strong, powerful emotions. Like shame exists to have us like, you know, not break serious laws or like hurt people we, you know, it's just like it shouldn't be there in response to eating a Chick-fil-A sandwich.
100%.
So, but I mean, but a lot of people do experience that. So when you can kind of shift more towards curiosity and just be like, like, and kind of look at it in more of this like objective sense of wonder, I guess you could say. And then it helps empower you to be like, you know, you're in the driver's seat, right? Like you're in control. Like maybe next time you won't make that choice.
Right.
So, you know, we've just gone, or we're still in the period of COVID. And I imagine you've been health coaching the whole time because you do so online, virtually. Yes?
Yeah.
Pretty much, mostly. So what kind of, do you think was business as usual over the past 4 months, or did you experience any kind of differences coaching through COVID in terms of the types of things you would help clients work through?
Yeah, that's a really great point to bring up, and I think it's important in general. I think that this is the first time that we have had to sit with whatever's going on in our lives, whether it be as a coach or a client or just a human. And so a lot of things have come to a head and to the surface, and a lot of things are also just situationally happening outside of our inner dialogue. And so a lot of what I'm coaching clients on right now is that stress reduction. And so that they, whether it be so that they can show up for somebody they love and they're taking care of who's sick, or whether they can, you know, have the motivation to improve their own immune systems or to get back on their feet after a job loss. I mean, I'm seeing a lot of different situations, and what it comes down to is just figuring out a way that best suits them to get through. And I really do believe that that starts with stress reduction in a lot of ways, because the whole situation, there's so many unknowns, there's so much uncertainty happening. There is a lot of, you know, economic distress. Everybody, you know, exactly, you know the situations at hand. So there's no need to list them, but I'm seeing my clients with these individual situations that need their full attention. And so in order to give their full attention, regardless of where they're coming from in this, they have to feel a sense of groundedness and balance. And, you know, despite what people might think, it is achievable even in the most distressing situations. And so having people realize that and find it for themselves, whatever way that looks like, whether that's spending, you know, 20 minutes a morning walking, or sitting with their thoughts and feelings for 5 to 10 minutes quietly and letting their husbands take the kids for just to give them a breath, just to take care of themselves. It's really the self-care. I don't know. I love the term, and I hate it because I think it can get kind of trendy and cliche, but really, we should all be taking care of ourselves so that we can show up for other people too.
Right.
And so that has been a common theme in coaching a lot of people with the stress reduction.
Yeah, and I feel as if this time has really shifted our perspectives to even, whereas for a lot of people, like health was probably not on their radar, right? And I think it's kind of taught us how important it is,
100%.
physical and emotional and mental and everything. Have you seen any like positive shifts like that with your clients that have been like, okay, this is really important to me. And so like people are taking care of themselves or more quick to take care of themselves or kind of release those blocks and actually kind of do the work?
Yeah. I've seen it go two ways. I've seen one go into doom and gloom stress,
Yeah.
stress eating, stress, so their health takes a back seat because of the worry.
Mm-hmm.
And
Mm-hmm.
so when we can break through those blockages, that's enormous. On the other hand, to your point, I've seen a lot of positive motivation, whether it be somebody who knows somebody who has had COVID and they're not wanting to end up in the same situation, whether they perhaps are immunocompromised already and they want to work on improving their immune systems, improving their health and their physical activity as best they can. A lot of this also is interesting because I think the exercise world has changed in quite a way.
Mm-hmm.
And, just before this, you and I were talking about Zoom and online workouts and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And I think that could move the needle for a lot of people who are uncomfortable going to those group
Yes.
classes. With that said, I think there's a lot to be said about group activity and positive community and motivation. And so, with this new world we're in at the moment, I don't want to say it's the new normal forever, but at the moment, I think
Mm-hmm.
that could really come into play beneficially for a lot of people who want to start somewhere, whether it be for exercise or health and wellness or health, eating well. I think that this is the time to devote to those things. And so a lot of people are starting to realize that, as either whether it's me talking to them or themselves, I've seen a lot of people come to that on their own, and start building in those habits to boost their immune systems, but also their quality of life while they have this time to do it.
Yeah, no, I haven't really thought of it that way before. Because I know when, before we started recording, I was almost kind of highlighting the negative aspect of like the Zoom thing, but you're right. Like, I feel as if with this whole situation, whether it was getting outside and going for a walk or whatever is the only way that they could get outside. So it kind of like puts that on the forefront of people's minds, but it's also people who might not have been aware of, virtual workout classes or, what Peloton was, or their local studios who were forced to go online and they weren't ever able to make an in-person class because of time, kids, work, what have you. Now they have more options. So
yeah, 100%.
Very positive way to look at it.
Yeah, it is a good way to at least think of it from a person who's wanting to improve their physical activity or, their mental well-being. Physical activity contributes to that too. But the nice thing is that there's a lot of accessible and free ways to do that too. So we don't all have to have Pelotons in order to get that at-home workout. There's a lot of things, and people are exploring more resources that work for them. And so as our world moves, I think, into perhaps a more work from home or literally live from home way of being, I think that could really come in handy, especially when it's like in the privacy of your own home. You have time, you can devote 10 minutes, 20 minutes to just like taking that time, whether it be a yoga or meditation or a HIIT class. People are realizing they don't have to get in their car and go to the gym to carve out 2 hours of their day. It could be right there. So
no, that's so cool. So my last couple questions for you. I mean, I think it's so cool that you're in this unique position even before COVID hit of, working for a company and yourself and coaching clients completely virtually. So I'm sure you have a little bit of insight into kind of the direction that this space and this industry is moving. like, what are you kind of seeing and for, you know, health coaching or, because you work with uh, doctors too, right? So it's almost kind of like this symbiotic relationship to really help patients. So what are you kind of seeing for this overall in terms of moving to that space? I mean, do you think like the virtually is the way that it's going to be, or just tell me a little bit about that, especially for people who are interested in health coaching on this side of things, like what that, kind of looks like down the road.
Yeah, it's been a really amazing few. So I started back in January with this company that I'm currently coaching through virtually.
Mm-hmm.
And I've learned a lot about how to keep it short and simple because it's all through text. It's all texting. And so to have a meaningful connected relationship, but still be able to do it from your phone and your our device, for a very device-centered world, for better or for worse.
Yeah.
And so this makes it accessible to anybody at any time wanting that extra help. They could be at the grocery store, they could be taking pictures of food or anything they have questions of and just text it. And being coached on the spot. Yeah, it's very cool. I think that people want human connection. I think we have this innate need to be connected to people. And so I think that there's a delicate balance between the online, strictly online communication altogether, and then that in-person reinforcement. And so I think that if a client is feeling supported by a community, whether it's virtually or in person, that's really, really important. But I think that there is so much benefit to, having somebody that they can call upon at any time, and still do the work on their own. But the virtual coaching has been really pretty life-changing for me because I'm able to help quite a broad group of people at one time. The one-on-one human connection is really important. So to still be able to establish that while texting is so key, and something I'm really proud of my company for making sure that's at the root of what we do. Because we're not robots, we're humans. And so that's one of the beautiful parts about it. And it also, I think, bridges the gap between, doctor and patient. And I think that health coaching is a really, really important role because it allows us essentially to guide people, be their guide on the side, as I've heard, through their journey, rather than, the doctor's there to check in when needed, to give the proper care. Doctors go to school, they're unbelievable at what they do. For 10 plus years, perhaps more, and they're well suited for those things. And I think that our job as health coaches is really important because we help carry them through to between those pivotal moments, and we're there for those milestones. And that communication between doctor and patient is really important as well, so that we can then take the information from the professionals, the doctors, and continue to hold these people accountable, to hold ourselves accountable. And I think it kind of takes all hands on deck at the end of the day. And I think that the virtual way of doing things is great because now there's teledoctors, there's teletherapists, there's telemed, and people want convenience, and they want it to be, this whole process, unfortunately, isn't an overnight process, but it's a good thing because it makes people realize that, like, the work you put in is the work you come out of this whole life, so I think moving forward, I think a lot of things are going to be text driven, virtual, but I am loving where it's going in a way that's accessible to anyone. You don't have to live in a huge city. You don't have to be able to afford the best healthcare in the world. You just have to hold yourself accountable and have access to, some of these great offerings like virtual texting, health coaching. And I think it's great. I'm really excited about it.
Oh, that sounds so cool. And I think that is really exciting the way that that's moving. And I think health coaches and doctors can make such a beautiful partnership, because I know like my older brother is a doctor and he always says like 5 to 10 minutes with a patient. But I think what health coaches allow is just a little bit more individualized attention, and knowing that, you know, they don't necessarily go to medical school, nor do they have to, because I think what the beautiful thing is about a coach is like, it's just that, right? It's helping to like pull from a client what they already know to do. You know, I don't know if you get this a lot, but like every time I health coach someone, like 9 out of 10 times they would walk into my office and they would say, I know what to do, but, you know, right? And it's that, but that's like, that's what you need to explore. But like, so it's
100%.
just, yeah, it's kind of being someone's, I heard this word recently, accountability buddy. Like
I like
account,
it. I like it.
really holding someone accountable, which I think people, especially when it comes to health goals, really, you know, need until they can build that confidence.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I think that the doctors are amazing at delivering the information needed, and then they need your accountability buddy to help out. That's our job. We can relay that important information, reiterate, you know, what doctors give and provide. There's a space for everybody, but again, we're all connected, and we all need to be in communication with one another. It's not health coach or doctor, it's both, you know?
Right.
So
Exactly.
absolutely.
Okay, so a question I ask everyone, because personally I have a fascination with morning routines, but I think also other people love hearing about people's morning routines. So Caroline, what is your morning routine?
Such a good question. I love the morning.
Mm-hmm.
Well, actually, my routine's changed a little bit lately, Sarah, because of my puppy.
Yes.
I just got a cutie 8-week-old Bernedoodle.
Oh my gosh, she is so cute.
Yeah, she's cute. I know you've gotten to meet her, but so she's changed our routine a little bit. But again, I'm married. My husband works from home too, so typically I get up around 7, and naturally, which has been really nice. I don't set an alarm, but I get up naturally. I'm going to milk these days for all they're worth, for hopefully one day, if and when I have kids, they'll change. But
it's like say goodbye to sleep.
Yeah, right. So far, no alarm, but then I typically will have some lemon water to get my digestive system moving. Make some coffee, and while the coffee is going, I like to tack on, that's my time to go and sit and meditate for 10 to 20 minutes. Sometimes I give myself lately it's been like 2 or 3, because she'll come up and like interrupt a little bit, but it's all part of it. But yeah, no, so my first hour or 2 of my day, honestly, is spent just downtime. I get a workout in, usually in the morning. If I don't, the benefit of working from home is that obviously I can schedule that later, but something else would come first, like work. I would start to work earlier and then work out later. But my first hour or 2 is spent being mindful and kind of opening my day up into setting an intention. And I used to write, but I've taken to just meditating and kind of setting up my day for, you know, being present and focused, and what do I want out of today? And I kind of set that, whether it's not, you know, it's not in writing, but it's here. And so drink my coffee and get going on work after my workout. So yeah, wake up, coffee, lemon water, meditate, workout, work.
I love that. No, that's a really good idea, because I have this coffee maker where I put it on auto brew for the next morning. So I usually make it like the night before, so it's, you know, ready to go in the morning. But that's actually a really good way to kind of fill that space. Because for me, for some reason, I'm like, well, I got to have coffee before I meditate, which is, again, not true. But I mean, for me, that's just kind of like the routine I'm in. But no, I love that so much. Yeah. And I'm currently trying to make that shift between, because in the past couple of years, I've picked up journaling big time. So it was like one of those things that I would journal every morning, and, you know, whether it was, you know, just quick gratitude practice or the vision for my ideal day. But like now I'm starting to be like, okay, I don't necessarily need to write it down. Like, why don't I just kind of like sit with it and like actually be and do the work in the experience. So I like that. You've motivated me to kind of.
Well, maybe I'll start writing again then.
Yeah.
Like,
Put a flip flop.
Flip flop for sure.
Yeah. Yeah.
Definitely.
Well, thank you so much for having this conversation. I know that I learned a lot, and I can't wait for others to kind of hear it too. And just
I
so
know
many
this was so
good
fun.
nuggets. I know. We'll do it again for sure. I mean, you're
It's
a wealth
a
of
social
knowledge.
hour.
I know, right?
The way
Like,
it's the slide.
yeah, it's so fun. It's the new normal with that now. So
For now. For now.
yes, yes. All right,
Awesome.
my dear. Well, thank you so much, and
Thank you
I'll
so
talk
much.
to you soon.
Sounds good.
All right.
Sarah.
Have a good rest of your day. Bye.